It's Marc Silber, and Jared is going to be in the show as well because we're doing something we've never done before. We're going to do photography news. You know, there's so much going on out there in the world. We thought every week or so we're going to test this out. We're going to round up news, what's happened. Let's start in with that first bit that you told me about. It's a tale of hope and resilience. What's the story?
Yeah, so we have a outdoor museum exhibit by the New York Historical Society. So obviously people can't go indoors right now, so they have
Yeah.
created an outdoor exhibit called Hope Wanted: New York City Under Quarantine, and it focuses on, what life has been like under quarantine. So it has weatherproof paneling, and it's got great quotes. So it's a great example of mixing your media. It has photos, it has audio, it has quotes from people. So
I
this
love
is
this.
a fantastic example.
I love the fact that we're getting museum viewing opening again. This is really great, very important. You guys know how important it is to see works of art in their actual environment, not just on a computer screen or even a book. I hope that spreads around the world. Okay, now we've got a couple of new books that have come out. One is from an astronaut and a photographer, right? What's the story here?
Yeah, so this is about photographer Roland Miller and Italian astronaut Paolo Nespoli. I
Easy
believe I
for you to
pronounced that
say.
correctly. Yeah. And so they've teamed up to create a first of its kind book. Roland Miller, the photographer, he worked with the astronaut to help him with his composition skills, and then he processed all the photos, but the astronaut's the one who took them all up there, and they had to do some really innovative stuff. One of the things I was seeing is you can't use a tripod in space.
That's
The
true.
tripod floats away. So they had to create their own special kind of a sort of monopod tripod that would work to stabilize so that he could still get a high shutter frame. So this is currently on Kickstarter, so it isn't quite out yet, but you can order your copy now.
A new kind of book. That's pretty awesome. And then we have another one that, why don't you tell us about this one? This is the Field Guide to the Lower Columbia.
Yeah, so this is two people, an author and a photographer. So author Robert Pyle and photographer Judy VanderMaten. And they have a huge love for the Lower Columbia River area. And so, one's a poet and one's a photographer. So they have combined their photography and their poetry together. So once again, it's like what Dan's been talking about
Yeah.
recently in one of our recent podcasts. Mix your medias.
Okay, we've got some tech news here. First of all, Photoshop has a way of kind of smoking out fakey images, right?
This is something that's going to be coming out soon, but they're basically creating a way to tag images because, it's always been a concern in this digital age
Yeah.
of digitally manipulating images, but with deep fakes becoming more common, it's becoming even more concerning because there could be really dangerous implications for
Fake
where our
stuff.
photography is being used.
Yeah.
So Photoshop is going to be implementing soon a system that will allow photographers to basically share, this is where the photo came from, this is what I did to the photo, so that people can feel confident in the authenticity of your photo or know exactly what you had manipulated if you took it from somewhere and changed it. So we'll talk more about this when the feature comes out, and maybe if you guys are interested, we could do a video on it. Let us know
Yeah.
if you want us to go deeper into one of these stories.
I am going to talk about this new Hasselblad that is coming out, and that has the film back on it. It was used on the moon. NASA selected the Hasselblad for good reasons. It's a medium format camera. It's incredibly reliable. You take the film back off, just like they're showing, and you put this brand new digital back on. Now, the cool thing about this digital back, and again, you're going to think, Mark, why are you getting so excited about gear? Well, I am excited about this gear because I love this camera. I love this format. I love the fact that you can do things with it, and the technology of it is pretty amazing. It has its own, it's called NCS, Hasselblad Natural Color Solution, and Hasselblad does amazing things with their technology. It's also 16-bit. So what does that mean? 8-bit technology gives you 256 levels of color. With 16-bit, you get 65,536. Did you hear that? Over 65,000 levels of colors and tones. So you're going to capture all those really, really, really subtle tones. You can do slow motion with it. It's got 14 stops, okay, of dynamic range. Again, that's what we try to do, with film, is expand that range, and that's without using HDR or anything else. Some industry news. Sony, I like this. Tell us about this Alpha Female Plus grant program.
So they've got their Sony Alpha Female Plus program. They want women to apply and, talk about like what kind of photography would they be doing with, with their cameras. The rewards for being in this program are $5,000, a full frame Sony camera lens, a year subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud, all apps, and 1 year of Sony Pro support membership, as well as access to be featured across Sony's many channels. They want women to be submitting for what kind of photos would they be doing?
Okay, what's this story about the market share that's going on here?
It's always interesting to see what cameras are popular. Of the top 5 brands, they take up 93.7% of the market. So pretty much all cameras are related to the, these top 5.
Yeah,
at Canon, nearly 50% if you look here. But Sony has really jumped up. And now they're 20%, and they've actually, I believe for the first time now, surpassed Nikon in market share.
That's amazing.
So there are more people using Sony cameras than Nikon cameras. Obviously still a lot using Nikon, but that's just a really interesting shift in the direction of the industry.
Okay, so what's also happening is Adobe will be giving away this year's, Adobe Max, and it's going to be free and it's going to be virtual.
Yeah, so anybody can experience it. As you can see, we've got friend of the show, Annie Leibovitz, will be a speaker. She's one of the headliners.
And we've done my very first video on AYP was with Annie Leibovitz walking around through her exhibit in San Francisco.
Yeah, so that should be a fantastic talk.
There was an interesting lawsuit that was just settled in the favor of a photographer. I like hearing this.
So BuzzFeed took a photographer's photo, used it without their permission.
Shame
Big
on
no-no.
them.
But what they did was even worse, because then they cropped out the photographer's byline on the photo.
That's just plain lame.
Not only that, but then they credited it to a different company. They credited it in the story to a law firm.
Oh no. That's even getting worse, to a law firm of all places.
Obviously, they tried to resolve this, couldn't get it resolved, so they sued them, and they sued them on 2 accounts. So 1, using their photo without permission, which is pretty standard.
Yeah.
But then 2, they sued them for cutting out the attribution that was in the photo itself. And they won on both accounts. So, that's pretty huge news about reminding us the rights that photographers have.
And you know how lame it is when you see your photograph on somebody. I've had that happen. I open up somebody else's Instagram feed. I see my photo with no attribution. Like, hey, if you're going to rip it off, at least put my name on it. But this guy, that's good. Good for him stepping up and defending our rights. Kind of to wrap things up here, we've got a couple of in memoriam type items. So the first female photographer, tell us about that, of her country.
She was the first professional photographer of Bangladesh. She was a real trailblazer in her country. She has taken photos of Mother Teresa and many others.
Amazing.
And she's worked with renowned filmmakers from her country, storied career, did a lot of really good for her country. And she passed away yesterday.
Okay, she was 83. She had a long career. Thank you for all the work, the great work you've done. And then the inventor of the pixel. We take this word for granted.
So Russell Kursich, this photo right here is the very first digital photo there ever was.
Amazing.
And he made it by scanning the photo into the computer because there were no digital cameras.
Right.
And there wouldn't be for some time. And so he's the one that created the concept of square pixels. You know, where would we be today without
pixels?
You know, without pixels, you don't have digital photography.
You don't have videos. You don't have digital photography.
Some people may celebrate that. Some people may curse it.
True that. And then last in this category, we have a documentary photographer. He was, 89 years old, and unfortunately he crashed. But I'm just mind blown that this guy was out flying when he was 89. But he has quite an amazing career, right, Jared?
Yeah, I was reading up on his career. And kind of one of the places that he began was these marches, the civil rights marches with Martin Luther King. He moved to Mississippi to observe and photograph and participate in these protests. What he did is he walked backwards while taking the photos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was reading into that. And so that's why he could get such close and intimate photos. Here he is in a recent photo. But as you can see, he got really close up to people in Mississippi when they were doing their protests. He got his photos featured in a lot of magazines of the time because of how close and intimate he was able to get.
Thank you, Matt Herron, for your great documentary work. All right, then we're going to wrap it up here with a kind of a funny mix-up. This is interesting. What's going on here, Jared? Somebody got a picture of themselves, but they're not in it. It's only look at that. This is an actual Tennessee DMV mix-up. A picture of an empty chair.
She applied for her driver's license as normal and ended up getting a picture of an empty chair as her identifying photo.
Show me your photo ID. Here it is.
Quality control.
Quality control. Oops. Pretty good.
When photography goes wrong.
In the San Francisco Bay Area, there used to be a station, sadly, called KFOG. And there was a news show that was done very erratically and irregularly. It might have been regular at one point. The name of the guy doing the show was named Scoop Nisker. And he had a closing line, which I'm going to adopt for this show. He said, if you don't like the news, go out and make some of your own. So you could be one of these people submitting your photos to Sony. You could be creating your own book. You could do something and make your own news, even if it's only in your own household. Okay? Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share and like and leave your comments. We want to hear from you guys, especially if you've got further data about any of these news points. And remember to capture your own images of life.